Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 29 of the Nurtured by Nature podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined in conversation by Lucy, the founder of Hedgewitch Essentials Limited. Whilst we often think about what we put in our bodies, how often do we think about the scents and smells we are exposed to? During this beautiful conversation about nature and life, Lucy takes us on an incredible journey, sharing her passion for the science of smell and the amazing therapeutic properties of quality essential oils, and how this led to the formation of her own product lines for both horses and now humans. We also delve into the challenges of running a small business and being able to deliver the highest quality essential oil-based products that preserve their true therapeutic properties. We both share how embracing self-selection and the use of essential oils has empowered our horses, giving us a new way to communicate and transformed our relationships, while also helping them process and resolve both emotional and physical symptoms. Having overcome some incredible challenges, not least a severe brain injury, Lucy reminds us to have hope and not be defeated, to look for the silver lining and the opportunities that may arise. We also reflect on the power of community and how there isn't a single modality that stands alone. We need to build a support team to help us maintain health in both ourselves and our horses. Welcome everyone, and welcome Lucy. It's really lovely to have you joining us today on this episode of the Nurtured by Nature podcast.
Well, thank you for asking me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I've been a loyal supporter of your products for quite a long time, so I'm quite excited to explore this with you and share you with my listeners. But just to get us started, I'd like to just ask all my guests a little bit about their nature story. So just really whatever nature perhaps has meant to you through your life, if that's changed, any fond memories. So if there's anything you'd like to share to get us started, that would be lovely.
I think nature has always been very healing for me, but what that actually means has really crystallized as I've got older, and emotionally and physically healing.
Yeah.
And I, as a child, I suppose I was maybe very sensitive, found it quite difficult sometimes being in groups of people.
Okay.
I very much gravitated to being outside, being with the animals.
Yeah.
And always loving the spring. The spring is my month. And when things start growing, I used to go for a ride and just watch the sequence of nature, looking for the primroses and then the violets and gradually everything coming to life. And I think I felt very at home in that environment, listening to the birds. And then I think as I got older and things happened to me, nature became healing in a very different sort of way.
Yeah.
I was I had a bit of I've had several life-changing experiences in my life. The first was when my father died when I was only 12.
Oh wow, bless you.
So I think that's when I really became, I existed for my pony. And he saved my life, and there's been lots of animals that I think have done that over the years. And so I spend a lot of time outside then. But then when I had another life-changing experience, which I had an ectopic pregnancy, which ruptured, and then had all sorts of problems after that. And I sort of quit. I was working as an agronomist then, so advising farmers on how to grow their crops.
Okay.
And I really had looking back, I didn't really realize it at the time, but I had a bit of an emotional meltdown, and I very much again turned to horses and probably started to collect them. And was,
as is common with us horsey folk.
Exactly. I was training pointers.
Okay, yeah.
And I had one year in particular where I had 3 points of pointers, and every single one of them kind of broke. There was
Yeah.
box rest, there was a warm tendon.
Yeah.
It was like I need to do more for my horses, they were also horses which I had bought out of racing, and when they came to me, they were out of professional
Yeah.
yards,
Yeah.
and when they came to me, they were very, very withdrawn.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
be standing at the back of the stable rather than heads over doors. And I started to get interested in energy medicine,
Yeah.
Bach flower essences, and
Yeah.
crystals, and all those sorts of
Yeah.
things. Um, and so, kind of the sensitive side of my nature, I started to realize I was actually quite intuitive, and so
Yeah.
started to explore all of that. Um, and that's how I came across essential oils.
Yeah.
I Caroline Ingraham
Yeah.
was
Okay. Yeah. The very well
and
known
she
in that field, isn't
very well
it?
known, and she was actually living locally to me
Oh, amazing.
at the
Fantastic.
time. So she was close enough to come over and do some sessions with the horses.
Oh,
And I
amazing.
thought, wow, this is amazing. So I went to one of Caroline's like weekend workshops,
Yeah.
and just got to know a little bit more about them. Bought her book, and bought, I don't know, probably 10 or so essential oils
Yeah. Okay.
that were, quite often selected. I probably asked Caroline which
Yeah.
I should have as a small collection.
Yeah.
And they're quite expensive as well when you
Yeah.
start out.
To get
And
good quality ones, definitely they are
yeah,
very
yeah,
expensive. Yeah.
definitely. Quality is so important,
Yeah.
because essential oils, even inhalation, they go straight into the horse's bloodstream,
Yeah.
yeah, to their brain. So you don't want impurities,
Yeah.
pesticides. I'll come on to it. Ask me about
Yeah.
labeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
I
just
will.
explore a
I
little bit later.
will. I will.
Um, so yeah, I started to offer the oils to my own horses because I knew when things weren't quite right, but they
Yeah.
weren't wrong enough that they'd be a veterinary thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to do more for them.
Yeah.
So that's why I started looking at them, and I started to offer them. I hadn't got a clue what
Yeah.
any of them did. I just thought I'll just, you
Let
know,
them choose and
let them choose. And if I don't know anything about it, that's probably good.
yeah.
What I
Yeah.
would do is I'd let them choose, and then go and look it up afterwards and
Yeah.
go, yeah, that makes sense. And that was the sort of approach I adopted. And one of my horses, he was he's behind me there actually,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
chestnut,
Yeah.
Celtic Town. I bought him as a 12-year-old, and he'd been his whole life in racing, and he was one of these
Wow.
ones that was very withdrawn but a real character.
Yeah.
But when you turned him out in the field, he'd get his head down, he'd eat grass, but on the hour he would start to go ballistic, round and
Oh,
around the field,
okay.
almost like, and I suppose maybe he hadn't been turned out before. And
Yeah.
that was about, he started to fill his tummy, and that was about as much as he could cope with without
Yeah.
basically having a panic attack.
Yeah.
So one day he was running up and down the fence, and I thought, oh, let's take some essential oils out there. Um,
Yeah.
so I grabbed some rose, which is that kind of brings the adrenaline levels down and is also for sort of trauma.
Yeah.
Frankincense for fear. And I think those were the only two oils that I took
That,
out, and I sort
yeah.
of climbed on the fence and um and I had no idea whether he was even going to be interested, because sometimes when they get quite worked up, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you offer them, then it's just
Yeah.
not
They've gone
the
too
right time.
far. They're in
They've
that
gone too
yeah.
far.
Yeah.
But he kind of like came over and he started sniffing the rose and sniffing it a bit more. And I thought, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
And then after a little while, he just wandered back out into the field, put his head down, and I never had that problem with him ever
Oh,
again. And
amazing.
and it was
Yeah.
that was my turning point. That was
Yeah.
like,
You thought, hang on, there's really something in this. This is
yeah,
yeah.
and especially emotionally.
Yeah.
which is such a difficult thing to help horses with the
Yeah.
stuff that they carry, all those experiences, and
Yeah.
being prey animals, they don't cognize, they don't lie awake and think about them like we do. But in a situation or an environment, that can suddenly start to control their
Trigger.
behavior.
Yeah.
Trigger
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, this is amazing. Um, but then life kind of got in the way
Yeah.
again.
As it does, as it has a habit of.
And I gradually not moved away. They were always there.
Yeah.
Um, but I just didn't have time. I hadn't got more horses. I got more dogs. I think I was kind of hiding
Yeah.
with being busy.
Yeah.
I had sheep. It's just like life is. And I stopped finding those quiet moments.
Yeah.
Um, and then I suppose probably 5 or 6 years later, I had my third really life-changing event, and I was leading a horse, and I got he got a bit excited, and um, basically he knocked me over, and I didn't let him go because I was
Oh
thinking, oh,
no.
school run, he could get
Yeah.
out onto the road,
Yeah.
and I ended up with a brain injury,
Oh my goodness.
a
Yeah.
severe traumatic brain injury, and I had several bleeds and two craniotomies,
Yeah.
and um, yeah, so
A
kind of
long recovery as well.
a long
Yeah.
recovery,
Yeah.
years and years,
Yeah.
and I went back to work too soon.
Yeah.
Um,
As we're tended to do. Yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I didn't understand that it's not like a broken limb. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's an invisible injury, and
Yeah.
so it's hard
Yeah.
for
So
other
physically
people.
you might have looked all right, but actually everything else that was going on was still very much needed more healing and more time.
Yeah, because for me, it slowed down my what they call executive functioning. For so things like we're doing now will wear me out because it's conversation. I'm
Yeah.
listening to you, you're listening to me. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about what I'm going to say. Things that just happen in normal life.
Yeah. Quite
Very
exhausting.
tiring,
Yeah.
quite exhausting, and it was the fatigue. It was just enormous fatigue. Um, so I went back to work, and then after 18 months of just getting more and more tired, I realized it was I'm not ready for this. So
Yeah.
I I um, I took time out. I ended up taking 4 years out, and that's when I was kind of almost the most amazing time, even though it had its real challenges because it gave me time with myself.
Yeah.
I'm a very busy brained person.
Yeah.
And I always, into something, and I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Um, and in that time, I was really able to reconnect with myself, but also with everything around me. I started
Yeah.
writing poetry.
Mhm.
Um, And I thought, well, what can I do with myself now? I've got almost this opportunity to do
Yeah.
something different.
Yeah.
And Caroline she'd set up the Ingraham Academy of Zoo Pharmacognosy.
Yeah.
And so I joined her first practitioner training
Oh,
course.
amazing.
And that was brilliant because part-time study, um, or weekends away, training, which was also really nice because it connected me with people with
Similar.
similar
Yeah.
interests.
Yeah.
And that's when I did my practitioner training. I'm doing a lot of the talking.
No, no, it's fascinating. It's lovely. I think it's really nice it's just such a I'm sitting on the edge of my seat really. I'm like
uh,
really enjoying listening. I think that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes people do these little like sort of short snapshots of who they are because that's what our society has become, hasn't it? We want these like little bite-sized pieces, and actually people are far more intricate and complicated than that. So it's really lovely to have someone who's so openly sharing, that life has been full of challenges, because I think that's important as well. A lot of people sometimes think they think that they not that they're the only one that have challenges, but their own challenges feel insurmountable. So when you hear the challenges that others have gone through and come through and found comfort and ways through is really powerful as well. So
And I feel like that about my own challenges sometimes, that there's people that, are far worse off than me. And that was one of the things when I actually had my brain injury, because I was up at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, and I was the only person in the
ward,
in the neurology, neuro whatever ward, that was there because I had had an accident.
Okay.
Everybody else had brain cancer.
Oh, wow.
And to me, that was really, really sobering, because I knew that I wasn't going to die. I got through my surgery. I wasn't going to die from what had happened to me, and I would have to adapt. But what I was facing was completely different to everybody around me. So that was, I think it changed. I did get very low, but I think you always have a choice about how you feel with things, and there's always an opportunity, even when things
don't feel like it at the time. Maybe it's when you look back, it's like you said, it gave you the space to explore more of your relationship with yourself, and then has taken you on the next stage of your wonderful journey as well.
And I think you have to, even when you're feeling really awful, sometimes you have to remind yourself that there might be a silver lining, because otherwise you can just spiral in the wrong direction. So I tried to always find the positive things. Hey, I'm able to write poetry again. Normally I don't have time. I'm able to do this, that, and the other. So I didn't have much money. That was a big negative. But I was able to, I suppose, achieve some of the things that I would never otherwise have done. I wouldn't be here now if that hadn't happened to me. I wouldn't have started Hedgewitch. Your life would have been very, very different. So,
and all of the people that you serve wouldn't have you helping them either as well. Like all the horses and all the people that really have that you've been able to help as a result of it. So it's a beautiful well, I suppose opportunity, really, I suppose, is really the word for it, isn't it? It's like it was an awful event, but it created this amazing opportunity for yourself and your life.
And I have to say that I was very, very reluctant to start making products using essential oils, because obviously with zoo pharmacognosy, everything we do is about animals making the choice. And I knew that even, as I do using oils, which horses usually select for certain conditions, even though I can advise people to offer it first, I know that that's not going to happen. Probably in most cases, that's not going to happen. I wasn't very comfortable with that. But what and it was Mike, who's my other half and the other half of Hedgewitch, who went, but these things, they're amazing. Essential oils. Look what you've done with them. And I very often make up different gels and things for itchy dogs or horses that had mud fever, and so all these things, and they just like work gobsmackingly well. And he says, you think how many horses you could help if you made these into products. And it's like, but don't really want to. But anyway, he kind of convinced me of that. And I think probably the other thing that really convinced me that it was better to bring essential oils to people which are formulated with quality products that are actually using essential oils therapeutically rather than to be
Just for scent and yeah.
and for scent, and to tick that, oh, we're using essential oils in our product. And you know, they're everywhere now. They're in, you know, air fresheners. I question whether a lot of them are essential oils, but that's another story.
Yeah.
um and also, I'm quite passionate about people knowing what they're applying to their horses,
Yeah.
for the health of the horse, but also for their own, because we're handling everything that we put on our horses.
Yeah, I think I think you said, you state it on your website, don't you, that there's no legal requirements for the labeling of products for animals, is there? So there's literally, there's no requirement for manufacturers who are producing products that you use on
You
your
don't have
horses
to.
or animals
You
to
don't
do
have to.
anything.
You don't have to put the ingredients on the label. You should follow the labeling rules for everything that doesn't have any rules, which means using hazard symbols and bloody 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 blah where
Yeah.
appropriate. Um, but no, and essential oils in particular, there there's no, basically anything that's labeled as, it can be labeled as pure, which makes you think, wow, this is high quality,
Yeah.
and only have 10% of
Wow.
an essential oil in it, and be cut with cheaper ingredients to,
Yeah.
and that to me is, that's, you know, that's a huge worry.
Yeah.
And you can smell it. One of the first things that you learn in zoo pharmacognosy, if you're making any preparations, or even diluting an essential oil into a base oil to leave with a customer, is that the smell of the diluted oil should have exactly the same notes as the,
Yeah. Okay.
you know,
The
the
concentrated.
yeah, for want
Yeah.
of a better word,
Yeah.
the essential oil itself.
Yeah.
And I love going into shops and taking the lids off things and sniffing them and thinking, well, I can't smell the real notes of lavender there. Or
Yeah.
so for me, I think bring products which I know are going to work for horses, that horses are going to like, that are made with just the best quality oils and used safely with them. That was the other side of, you know,
Yeah.
convincing me that, Hedgewitch was a good idea.
Yeah.
And then that's been a whole another journey of
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah, it's I mean, that's how I came across you, was through your Hedgewitch Essentials and your products. I've had a bit of my own exposure to zoo pharmacology. I'm not a practitioner myself, but knew people who trained. I had someone who trained with Caroline Ingraham, who came and helped me with a horse that had he had sarcoids, and they'd been treated through sort of conventional veterinary treatments and just kept returning. And he was actually an ex-pointer as well, so there's lots of similarities. But it's just such a powerful modality, isn't it? And I think one of the things I loved about it was, a bit like you, I explored quite a lot of things with him, and I'd take him for walks and I'd see what he liked, and then go home and try and learn why he was selecting them. And it's quite surprising that way. But you just develop a different relationship with your animals as well, don't you? It's just like they suddenly have a voice and they have an opinion. And yeah,
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, and that's exactly how I describe it. It's like giving your horse a voice, or learning a new language,
yeah,
and it changes your relationship with them, because suddenly they realize that you're empowering them.
yeah,
It's like, when most of our time we're doing something to them or with them, but this is something very different. It's saying, like, do you need this?
yeah.
Um,
Does
yeah,
that help you feel better, or
let me
yeah,
help you.
yeah,
And they go, oh, actually, blimey, he's a human that's listening.
yeah,
And it magnifies, doesn't it? It
yeah,
it it just completely changes your relationship with
yeah,
them. And something, I think my horses shout a little bit too loudly sometimes because they tell me all the time when something's wrong. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
But it does it's the start of a journey that there's no going back from,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
And I'd love, when a few years ago, I really wanted to do some like online training courses for people because so many people are really, really interested in this.
Yeah.
Um, and I never really, I didn't manage to find the time to do it because time is just, working and doing Hedgewitch, and Hedgewitch growing is just
Yeah.
been a huge balancing act. But it's still something that I'd really like to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's, I think it's, horses are, I often reflect on what we expect of horses in our society, and it's a huge amount. And like quite often, unless there's massive extenuating circumstances, any other animal you get, you're likely to have them for their life. So you might get them like a dog, you might get them as a puppy, and then you'll have them until they die, and therefore so much about them. Whereas horses, we are still quite regularly like sold from home to home. They can often, have multiple homes throughout their life, multiple jobs that they're expected to do, and every time that they move, they'll, not only do they lose their human family and owner, but they lose their companions. They'll move yards, have different environments, different routines, and I think that's why zoo pharmacology is so amazing. And I think you talked a little bit about it earlier about the emotional side of how essential oils really help. And I think horses in particular respond to that, don't they? Because you might not know their full history, so having this ability to offer them things that they can choose is really powerful for them.
I think it is, and I think this whole separation thing, it is massive when they move home, because as you say, it's the human that they've bonded to as well, that all of a sudden, they just have to cope with massive change. And my horses here, they're very bonded to one another.
Yeah.
Um, and they're fine. They're fine if you take them off, but they're very, very happy when they come back again.
Yeah.
And to take that away permanently, it happens, it's life, but we can help with that. We can help with that. And there's hardly a horse that I've met that doesn't have issues, and often it's around weaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weaning is a very, very traumatic time, especially when it's abrupt,
Yeah.
very young. And yeah, horses, they do hold that sadness, and it's, in these sessions, and you'll have experienced this, it's palpable, um, through the expression on their face and the softness of their eye, and
Yeah.
you can feel it. So there's a lot of sadness and a lot of grief that horses hold.
Yeah.
Um, and we can help them,
Yeah.
because unlike us, where it's very, very difficult to like let go of your stuff, um, horses are, they're,
Yeah.
they're they're much, much easier. They're much more, they're dealing with energy all the time. They're much, I don't know, they're just much more straightforward. So you can help them, and you can help them permanently. It doesn't
Yeah.
keep bubbling up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think weaning is a big thing, isn't it? Where I know one of my horses that I have now, actually he's now like 15, and he we had an incident with fireworks a couple of years ago, and it was very traumatic for them, and the trauma seemed to then bring up in him the trauma of weaning, and he became very, very like sort of babyish and needy, and we've had to work through that, and he has worked through it and come out the other side. But it wasn't something that you would immediately expect sort of 13-year-old horse to deal with. But it isn't just, I know some people think obviously weaning, you maybe have to help them at the time, but actually you can help them all of these years later to process that emotion that they've been holding all of that time.
And I think it's how all this manifests into other conditions as well. Because I'm very often asked, like, have you got an essential oil for
Yeah.
XYZ, or have you got an essential oil that, or and my answer to that is always no, because what you're seeing as anxiety, yes, I mean, I can tell you essential oils that might help with anxiety, but what that horse will actually select, probably before it even ever gets to that essential oil, is all the issues, all the experiences that might lie underneath that, or it might be due to gut pain. Gus, anxiety is often related to the gut. Skin issues are often related to the gut. So you have to go back all these stages, like, why are you holding that emotion there? And that's when all these other things, remember pain, uh, separation, loss, fear, all of these things. So what I'm saying in a complex way is that the issue that you're seeing is probably not, when you add up the oils, you might find that they're going for something that's completely not unrelated but underlying. And as you facilitate this healing, you're going on a journey with them. And so you'll start off with their favorite oils, and you'll be thinking, but actually, surely you need X, Y, and Z. And they go, no, I don't. But X, Y, and Z will come into it somewhere further along the line when they're ready, when you've unpeeled all the layers, like peeling the onion. At the end, when they're ready. And so again, it makes you realize how much we impose our perceptions on them. It's like, you're anxious, I need to cure your anxiety or feed you a karma, or no, actually, they'll give the horse control of their own healing. They go, no, actually, I need to do this.
First, and that's got to be the first step, because otherwise, you're trying to, like you said, you're maybe trying to focus on the symptoms at hand, but actually you can't ever get through that because they've got to do this deeper layer first. And sometimes, like I think you've said, sometimes you'll do the deeper layer and it will just resolve everything, and other times you've got to then work through, and you can deal with the more sort of the symptoms that are still hanging around. Or
they may just resolve.
That's the amazing beauty of it, isn't it? And every horse is different and unique and individual, like people as well, I guess.
And every horse also works differently. I noticed that with different practitioners. I've got a friend down the road that is also a qualified equine practitioner, and it's quite hard to treat your own horses, or to offer to your own horses, because exactly as I've just been talking through, you have too many preconceptions. You almost need to, like, zero your mind, so I find it really difficult with my own horses. And I noticed that when she comes, everything she was very much more on a more physical level. But when I work with horses, it tends to be very much more on emotional level. So it's having, it's that different connections that we all have with them as well. So finding the right person for your horse, and often it is helpful to bring in somebody from outside, because we're all very invested in outcomes with our horses, coming from a good place, but that can get in the way.
I think there's so many lessons that we can well, that's what I love about horses as well. They teach you so much about yourself as well, don't you? And all of these things that we're talking about in relation to horses, we can also sort of transfer to our own lives and our own health as well, can't they? And like you were saying, it's, sometimes you might have to try a few practitioners before you find the person that resonates with you and how your body and how you work needs to work as well. And that's the same with horses. It's not that one's intrinsically better than the other. It's just that you resonate together, and therefore it becomes a beautiful melody, really, your partnership of helping to each other.
And you also have to look and be quite honest with yourself and go, am I actually part of the problem here?
Yeah.
Because horses very much come into our lives and work with us because they tend to spend a chunk, if not all, if they're not lucky enough to spend all of it, it's usually a big chunk of time. And there's a reason why you kind of identify with different horses.
Yeah.
They mirror your issues to you.
Yeah.
And I mean, we bred a foal last year, and she is quite challenging, very, very challenging. She's exhausted my skill set, and I've had quite a few foals. She's kind of attention deficit disorder. She's on the spectrum.
Okay.
And she's always a bit wired. She's a thoroughbred filly foal. She's like good as, and then she'll just she'll be rearing up in her stable.
Yeah. Like a flick, you flick a switch kind of.
Yeah, she'll go into fright and flight just like that.
Yeah.
And she's been quite we keep going, what are we going to do about Pixie? How are we going to help Pixie? And she had a cranial sacral treatment at the weekend.
Okay.
And Hans, who's our practitioner, he said, running through her body is this. She's on high alert. And I've been really thinking about that. And I get that, there's probably some birth trauma there. It's always quite sore in her neck. So that's something that you kind of probably need to get to. But I'm also wondering whether she's mirroring me.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been working really hard, like in a full-time demanding job, and with Hedgewitch, and I have just gone back to being a freelancer, so I'm kind of trying to create better balance.
Yeah.
All through her life, my energy's been all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, just like she is, and I wonder, am I the problem here?
Yeah.
Is she mirroring how I'm feeling if I'm, a bit tense or a bit about something, or I don't know, DPD have smashed up an order, or all the little things that arise
out of running a business,
and so I know because I've suddenly gone a little bit quieter in my work. And my brain, my body, everything is like racing. It's like, oh, what can I do now? What can,
Yeah.
And I need to get back out into nature because I need to ground. I need to kind of like switch off and go, oh. Yeah. And I'm really bad at doing that. So is she mirroring me?
Yeah. I think that's the amazing thing about horses, isn't it? Is when you start to develop these relationships with them, that you do actually have to sit there sometimes, and it can be very uncomfortable to have that sort of, it's almost like a magnifying glass on yourself, isn't it? Of like, hang on.
Oh, that's exactly it, and it can show you some really uncomfortable truths.
I've got because I've got two horses, and it's quite interesting because on the surface you would think that they're really quite different, but actually I've had both of them for well over a decade, and over time I've realized that they're both basically facets of my personality and they mirror those two different aspects, and it's sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable to realize, because you're like, oh no, that's me again. But it is there's valuable lessons in it, isn't there? Like you've said, like if you sit in that and it's a little bit uncomfortable to think, oh, okay, maybe I am, I don't want to say the problem, but like your energy has been you know, influencing her and her experience of life. But then you said, you think, well, actually it's a wonderful gift, isn't it, that she's sort of saying to you, hang on a minute, like maybe you need to make space for yourself and yeah,
Exactly. Chill out, mum, and then I
yeah,
can chill out, sort of thing. It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I've been living in your herd and you're constantly like looking at the horizon like a startled rabbit. And I'm like, oh my God, what?
and
Yeah,
and the more I think about it, I think, that may well be
yeah,
the issue. So yeah, I need to have a long, hard chat with myself.
yeah, yeah. It is, and I think I love the fact that you brought it back to nature as well. And I think it, even for us that know like how good nature is for us and everything, like our society and our lives are so hectic, and it is so easy to just get like stuck in that cycle again, isn't it, of there's so many demands on your time, and it's difficult to carve out that time to make space for yourself to
I
relax and ground. And
I very much often long for the days when a phone was a phone.
yeah,
When that's all it was, because although it's an amazing thing, it has created this always be available, always take action. And for me as well with Hedgewitch, I'm very bad at switching off because I'm usually because I work as a journalist and an editor, um, because I'm usually quite busy during the day. I
do the head
use
witch stuff in
Yeah,
what would be
either
your
side.
time in a normal.
Yeah, and if I get a Facebook message at 10 o'clock at night, I'll probably answer it because I know I'll probably forget in the morning,
Yeah,
or
or
but
you'll think about it all night and then it was like, well, you might as well have
yeah,
answered it anyway. Yes,
exactly that.
yeah,
But it doesn't help you switch off, and I've stopped. I want to start again, but I'm very bad at scheduling Facebook posts, and I tend to write them in the evening because most people look at them in the evening.
yeah,
And I haven't been posting very much over the last year because otherwise I spend my whole evening
yeah,
interacting with people, which is kind of
yeah,
lovely, but not when it
yeah,
means you're going from
yeah,
the moment you get up to the moment you go to sleep.
yeah. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? It's to find that. And I think it's a struggle that a lot of people who have their own businesses, especially if they have to work at another job at the same time. It's something that a lot of people can relate to, of how do you try and find that balance back. And yeah, there's not, I don't think there's an easy answer either, is there,
So
sadly?
I think, I mean, for me, I need to start imposing some boundaries on my, so like if it's weekend, don't look at the phone, customer
Yeah,
will wait till Monday, and
yeah.
all of those things that, but I'm going
I
to try
think
and not look at it.
Yeah, I think it's because we've got my partner's got his own business, and it's something that we've reflected on quite a lot, that like when you have a small business, people seem to be almost more demanding of you. Like, you're quite accepting of the fact that, when Tesco's is closed, they're closed. And, or, when the bank is closed, it's closed. Like you've got to wait till it opens. But it seems like with small businesses, people are like really quite demanding. Like we'll get emails from people 10 o'clock at night, we'll get phone calls from people, 7 o'clock at night, that you wouldn't imagine doing to a sort of
Yeah, also,
standard big
also the weekend.
corporation.
Yeah, people
Yeah,
don't have respect your time so much. But then again, we always want to be there for people as well.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
It's a double-edged sword, isn't
it
it?
is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the thing, is quite often people who've started their own business are so passionate about it as well, that they pour so much of themselves into it. It is difficult to put that boundary in, and find that healthy balance, but so that they can, still look after themselves, because it's important that you look after yourself so that you can be there for everyone, like in a greater capacity, isn't it? But so yeah, I think it's a difficult balance, and it's something that, like, I think is perhaps it's something that we just we just have to find a way through, don't we, of trying to just find that balance, and nature can be a fantastic tonic for that as well, can't it? Just, leave the phone at home and go out for, even if it's a walk, or just a bit of time with the horses in the paddock or something.
Absolutely. And listening to the bird song, yeah, and I love it. I'm already counting the days till the swallows come back, because they they have such a happy energy about them.
Yeah.
Um, I love the swallows. I notice when they go, um we have a barn here, and when we moved here, well, we didn't have the barn then, and we put it up. This is where the horses are, and first year we had like a nesting pair. This year it's almost got too much. We've had, I think, 8 nesting pairs,
Oh,
and
wow.
with all the
Yeah.
fledglings and several, clutches of,
Oh,
hatches.
yeah.
It was a bit crazy in there this year, but they're just so joyful, and
Yeah.
yeah. So 9th of April,
Yeah.
that's when the swallows come back.
I think I'm like you. I do love the springtime, and it's all those little indicate. I mean, that's the beauty of nature as well, isn't it? As you travel through the year, and there's all these little sort of indicators of where you are, and what's to come, the promise of the future. You spot the first sort of like snowdrops, and the wood anemones, and the first sort of haze of green bluebell leaves coming up, and you think, oh yeah,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
long.
I know. As I think most of us with horses struggle a little bit with the winter.
Yeah, yeah. The joys of mud. It's a well-known conversation with us horse people, isn't it? It's you sort of measure how far you are through the winter by how deep the mud has got. But no, I think we mentioned earlier, you touched on it a little bit about just like the quality of the essential oils, and I think, do you want to just talk a little bit more about that? Because if anyone is inspired to sort of go and have a look for essential oils, what they could look for, because I know you take it very seriously in your business, and you actually work with the producers, don't you, rather than the suppliers? Um,
Yes. Um, and I think find somebody you trust. And the first step is to come to Caroline Ingraham or somebody like us, although we don't offer the huge range that Caroline does.
yeah.
And I have certain indicator oils, which always tells me how good a supplier is, and those are the blue oils, so
Okay.
yarrow or German chamomile, and because to be fresh and lovely, they are this very vibrant,
Deep.
bright sort of
Yeah.
blue,
Yeah.
and they smell divine. So if you order something and it's green,
Or,
um,
or a bit watery and
or a
sort
bit
of,
watery. I mean,
yeah.
the trouble is, and you can always ask wherever you buy oils from, you can always ask for a certificate of analysis, which will tell you what's in it. So any reputable supplier
Yeah.
will be able to give you that. I would avoid anything that just says pure on the
Okay.
label.
Yeah.
Pure for me, although it sounds like it's probably the best, to me, it always feel that that's probably the
Perhaps
minimum.
masking something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you can, because there is this 10% inclusion rate, and you can label it pure. Um,
Yeah.
because I think if you're providing really good quality oils, you don't need to put that on your label. So that to
Yeah.
me is always like a bit of an alarm bell.
Yeah. Maybe a red
Um,
flag is
Maybe
perhaps
a
not.
red flag.
Yeah.
Um, and it's important. I mean, if you want the best quality essential oils, then you want wild farmed. So
Yeah.
these are ones which have had absolutely nothing, no chemicals. They're growing in the wild, and because where a plant grows actually affects its composition.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
can have lavender growing in a field somewhere. Maybe lavender is not the best example. What's wild farmed? Carrot seed, for instance.
Yeah. Okay.
So you might have carrot seed or carrot plants growing in the hedgerow, and collect the seed and the essential oils distilled from those. Or you can have cultivated carrots.
Yeah.
What they contain will be essentially the same, but also quite different.
Yeah.
So slightly different therapeutic properties. So how it's grown is very important. Whether it's sprayed with chemicals is quite important, because you get traces of that in the essential oil.
Bit like I suppose for anyone who's sort of trying to understand it, it's a bit like how our food is grown as well. Like you want to optimize the sort of what you've got to be aware of what's being put into it, as well as of the circumstances that it's grown in and things as well.
Yes, like plants are grown in better soils that have got better diversity of microbes, will have more nutrient density in the produce, like in your carrots or whatever. And so it's exactly the same thing in essential oils.
And I love all your products. I mean, I think we've got one of the shampoos, and we often use it ourselves as well.
I always use it myself. What we have in our bathroom is Hedgewitch stuff. And we set out to do that, to make it a human cosmetic. And we haven't quite completely gone through the process of actually registering it as a cosmetic. So we can sell it as a human product, but it's made as a human product, and that's on my big long list of things.
I think I had a guest a couple of weeks ago, and she's in America, and her focus was on like the human side, the cosmetics and the household products, and the problems with labeling and things with that. And I think that's the beauty of small businesses. Although, like we've talked about the challenges of small businesses, one of the beauties of it and the power that small businesses have is that you do take so much more care and attention to every little aspect of it. Like your raw products, you're going straight to the producers of them, and you're getting like these best amazing quality ingredients that go into it, and then you're taking the time to create your formulas so that they're suitable for humans, even though that there's no requirement for that for animals in this country, although there should be. But that's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? But I think it's one of the things that I've often found through my podcast and the conversations that I've had, is just like people often feel quite like they can't do anything, they feel quite hopeless. And actually it's like, making the simple step to find lovely people like yourself and support you and these small businesses that are kind of, for want of a better, like doing things right, really, and in such an attentive manner, really, isn't it? It's like, paying attention and being aware of every step of your process is actually, you can have a wonderful impact. Like you said, if you're supporting these producers that are organically growing or wild producing these plants, you're encouraging biodiversity. So it's like this huge ripple effect of impact that you're having, not just the end result with the products helping with the horses and them having good quality products, but actually it's like your impact all the way through your production and supply chain is amazing.
And we very much, when we first started, I don't think we'd really envisaged making all the product ourselves. That was never really on our radar. And when we sent the first shampoo that we made, we sent to have a sample made by a contract manufacturer. We got it back, and Mike handed it to me and says, "Does this smell funny to you?" And I said, "Yeah, that's nothing like what we've made at home." So we dug into that a little bit more and found out, well, we told you what ingredients we put in it. What have you put in it?
Yeah.
Oh, we use some coca betaine, which is one of the soapy bits. And it was, I don't know, it was a different grade. It was the sort of grade that you put in your floor cleaner.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we went, well, that's not quite what we're trying to achieve. And we realized that if we wanted to keep control of the quality of our product, we had to do it ourselves. So even now, with some of the things like Frog and Soul Savior, the ones we sell a lot of, we have a manufacturer up in Cheshire who just mixes and fills for us. We deliver the ingredients to him.
Yeah.
Because most contract manufacturers actually want to supply you the ingredients as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to happen with Hedgewitch,
because they begin to cut corners, and one supplier goes up, so they shop around and they get a cheaper one. And
business looks at margins all the time, and it's not, it's not their brand. They're putting what's in the label in the bottle, but that's not good enough for us. It needs to be X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So it's manufacturing. That's why we sometimes run out of stock temporarily. There's a thing which we're trying to keep up with ourselves and not always doing a very good job. And it's also something that we need to address, whether we bring it all in house and actually have a bit more of a facility. There's all sorts of things going on in the background, and we are just about to launch our first human product as well. Which
oh wow, exciting! Oh, are you allowed to share more, or do we need to? I mean, I will include all your details so people can follow you. They can find your website and they can look out for that. Or
it's something that we developed actually before lockdown, and it's had a very long genesis. It's been there, and it's been used, and it's been used by friends. And Mike works for a small pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
Who have an injection for varicose veins called sclerotherapy. And after that, you can get horrible yellow discoloration. So he came back from America once and said, "Oh, Doctor so and so has got this natural product, and it's meant to help get rid of this skin pigmentation, hyperpigmentation. Can you do better than that?" And I thought, there's a challenge. And not long after that, one of my horses got kicked in the field, and he had a big hematoma on his chest.
Oh wow, okay.
And I made up like you do, I made up a concoction, and I got rid of the hematoma really, really quickly. And I thought, oh, no, I wonder if I can use some of these to get rid of basically it's blood staining. Like a bruise, but not quite the same as a bruise. It's a different pigment. So I got my formulating head on, which I love doing. I just love playing with essential oil chemistry. And we formulated this product, which we've called Fade Away. And it's been out with all sorts of different nurses and doctors and people. And it does what it says on the tin, basically, like a lot of our products. So it's really, really good at cuts the time that a bruise, the duration of a bruise by about a half. So it'll go between 5 and 7 days. Just disperses the blood under the skin. But it also is, I use it as a part of my. I don't do much skincare. I'm not that girly, but I do put it on my face and my hands at bedtime, and it's really lovely on your skin, and fades if you've got any when you get a bit older, and you get pigment spots where you've been in the sun too long and stuff like that. It fades those with continues. So it's a really lovely product, and I've got so many ideas for human skincare. So this is going to be the first.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see because your products for the horses are amazing. So I'm very excited to see what you develop for people. And I think for so long, like, people have been so dismissive of the power of sort of these more natural products. I mean, obviously natural doesn't mean safe, and there are caveats with essential oils that you need. I mean, particularly certain oils are you have to be very careful with dogs and cats, don't you, in particular,
Yes.
which again, with the way you approach it, you allow them to move away and don't force anything. I think it's something to be careful of with some of these products that you plug it in and they sort of
Where that
yeah
but yes, no, the ones, the room deodorizers, fragrances, I wonder what on earth they put in those, because they don't smell anything like essential oils.
No, they I think as you spend more time, you sort of get your nose in, don't you, of like thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's not quite right. But yeah, it's just, I think there's just but there's science out there. That's what's amazing, isn't it? It's like people are dismissive of it sort of superficially, but actually there is science out there that really supports how powerful they are, both for horses and animals, which is predominantly what we've been talking about, but also for humans as well, which is what you're sort of moving into a little bit now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interest in both agriculture and medicine, in essential oils, because they are discovering they have got some amazing properties. But I think that generally, in the general population, most of us don't really understand the science of smell very much. We don't see that the things that we are breathing in are chemicals. Everything's a chemical, but essential oils, they're going up your nose, they're attaching to your mucous membranes, they're either going to your brain or they're going to your bloodstream. They're going all around your bloodstream, and then your body has to get rid of them. So again, we're back to that quality thing, is that the more impurities in there, the more your body has to do. And whether it's in terms of processing them through the kidneys and blah, 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 or whether it's detoxing them in the liver, or whether you're needing to, bring more antioxidants in to get rid of, it's a cascade. And it's one of those, we think about maybe what we eat, but we don't think about what we smell.
No,
the good side and the bad side. And it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think it is an amazing subject, and I think it's been absolutely fantastic talking with you today, Lucy. I think we're probably getting to the point where we should probably wrap up, although I'm sure I could talk to you for hours more. But it's I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to share today, if there's any advice for anyone who's interested to learn more, or anything that you have.
As far as essential oils go, yes, do learn more, because you'll never look back. And there's some very good online resources as well. And Caroline Ingraham.
Yeah, if you I'll put her link in for people as well.
I mean, she has some lovely introductory videos, and she still does workshops, and that's a really good source of information. But if you do get the chance, get the book, get some oils, do what I did. Don't worry about learning what they do. Just offer them and start to read, or just learn that language, because that's so important. And we're seeing it, all the stuff about pain recognition in horses through the small cues, facial cues, and you learn this language through offering oils as well, and you will discover things that a vet will never discover. What's going on with your horse, and it is just the most amazing, and anybody could do it. You don't have to be special to do it.
No, I think that's the beauty of it, isn't it? And it's just, I mean, I know for myself, I think back to, like, I guess for my horse, probably the journey started in like 2008, and he's since passed on, and I've had other horses, and I've dogs, and myself and my family. It just spirals. But yeah, it's something that you won't ever regret doing, and it just opens up this whole new exciting world, really, doesn't it? Of
of
how you
endless
experience.
possibilities,
Yeah.
and being able to do something to help your horse. And
Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. It's really, because sometimes I think a lot of people come to these more sort of complementary, I was going to say alternative, but I don't like using that word, but like complementary medical, energy healings and things like that. They come to them when traditional medicine has kind of got to a dead end for them, isn't it? It's quite often that's when people find their way to these. But actually, you did talk earlier, one of the beauties of it is when you start working with these modalities, is they become preventative rather than, like, you keep that sort of equilibrium, and you work when you notice, like, oh, actually it's a little bit off color today, but there's nothing specific that I can put a finger on, and you end up in that sort of preventative phase, where rather than having to wait until things are so awful and advanced.
And that is so true. And it's the same with soft tissue body work for your horse as well. So by the time you've had to call the vet for something, I mean, I know there's times when we all have to call the vet where it's not preventative, but these things don't just happen, especially with horses, lamenesses, blah 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 blah. They've compensated for ages, or they've just been trying to cope because they're not going to show you, because they can't show you because they're a prey animal. But if you can keep them on the straight and narrow with the subtle things, the little things that we can do, and start noticing them, because when you notice the visual cues, you'll become much more aware of their whole body, of how they're feeling in that moment. It may not be something that an essential oil can help with, but that may mean, oh my God, I think I need to ring up my body worker and need to do some soft tissue work, or something's going on here. I don't know what. I need my team. There isn't a single modality that's going to do everything.
Work together.
Yeah, work together. And I think it enhances that awareness. And yes, that can keep the vet from the door.
I think that's a beautiful place to end, is just to remember that like the power of community, and in the way you said that there is the team, and it's like, bringing everyone's words of wisdom and advice together, and we're working towards creating health, I guess, is really the goal, isn't it? So it's beautiful. Thank you so much, Lucy. It's been absolutely a pleasure to speak with you today, and to learn about your journey and the amazing products with Hedgewitch, and just thank you for your time.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you for asking me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Nurtured by Nature podcast. I truly hope this conversation has brought some hope and inspiration into your life. I would love to have these messages ripple out across the world. So if you can, please share this episode with your friends, leave a review on your favourite podcast player, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. I would love to hear from you, so please feel free to connect with me on the links provided in the podcast description. But most importantly, thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me. But don't forget to simply get out there and enjoy the natural world.